Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Albert Ocran, welcoming you on behalf of Team Springboard, ably led by Comfort. This is your most inspirational show and the point where the greatest minds in the world converge. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation and proudly sponsored by MTN Pulse Just B, the Enterprise Group Enterprise Your Advantage, UMB Bank, celebrating 50 years in banking and Central University, Ghana's premier private Christian university. Our media partners, the Multimedia Group and the Graphic Business. Today, we begin a two-part leadership conversation. It's a subject that we all can relate to, but we all struggle to grapple with and even better to practice. And we'll find out why leadership is needed at the individual level, in the family, in the business, at the church, at governmental level, and across the world. Our guest is probably one of the most popular guests here at Springboard. Between 2009 and 2017, when he was last here, he's done, guess what, 12 different episodes or interventions on various Springboard platforms. He speaks on leadership across the world and has been very well known to be resident at the Manchester Business School. He recently wrote a book, a long-awaited book, I must say. If you're a regular here at Springboard, you know that one, a long-awaited book on leadership theory, practice, and cases. My guest, Professor Pikay Richardson. Prof, good to see you.
Always good to see you.
Yes. So welcome home once again, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
As I say, it's been a long time coming, but thank God.
It has been. Yes.
Finally.
Eventually, we are here.
Right. Let's start with your, as I say, your genesis into leadership. I know that you are celebrated over the world for what you do in the area of leadership. But let's start with how you got into this field and then roll on to your impact in the field and settle on the book.
All right. I think it started in 2001, March, I think it was, when the British Council used to be headquartered in Manchester. And one of the directors came to Manchester Business School and said, we realize that the problem of Africa is lack of good leadership. Continent endowed with so many resources, and yet poverty reigns everywhere. And we realize that the problem is actually leadership. They don't have the kind of leadership that will get things going so that development will result. So what we want to do, British Council, is to set up a program to train upcoming leaders in Africa so that they understand what leadership is. Because a lot of the time, people think that leadership is being in a position of authority. They get into power, they want the power, but they don't understand that leadership and position of authority, they are not synonymous. So we want to set up this program to train people, mentor them, and get them into leadership positions in Africa so they can make a difference. And we've come to Manchester Business School because we are also based in Manchester, British Council. And we're talking to you because you're also from Africa and on the faculty. And for the 17 years that I was in the Manchester Business School, I was the only African there. There were Indians and others, but the only African. So they had to talk to me. So we want to get together, get into bed, he said, to run a course. And that's how leadership actually started becoming part of my, if you like, menu. Because I was trained as a business economist. My PhD is in business economics and strategy. And that's what I used to teach. I taught business economics on the MBA program, on the part-time program for 17 years non-stop. But 2001, this came about. So, okay, let's get into it. So I started looking into leadership. And I realized that it was, a very, very important area. Because as a business strategist, I'll go to companies and advise them or talk about what they need to do to make progress or look at problems they haven't and then determine solutions for them and so on. So consulting and also teaching companies. But leadership seemed to be different because it appeared that it doesn't matter what a company wanted to do or what an organization wanted to do. If the leadership is wrong, then nothing else will happen. This is what I realized when British Council came in. So I started reading about it. And I found it very interesting. And then 2005, I think, was the watershed. I had met the dean of University of Shanghai Business School on a flight 2 years before, and we exchanged business cards. And I got a call in March from this guy, it's called Tony Ko. And he called me and said, Pikay, look, I put together a group of 40 senior people, very senior, from Motorola, from Nokia, Ford, and so on. We've put them together in Beijing. And as you know, we are very good in China in manufacturing, and we are very good in management because we can get things done. But we are not so good in leadership, which is the soft skill of winning hearts and minds. We're not very good. And we want our senior people to actually become well-versed in leadership. So I've put together 40 senior people, and we want a 4-day course for them, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, non-stop, because here we don't joke with time. So that will be about 30 hours. And we want somebody to actually do this leadership for them, bring them up to speed with regard to leadership. So can you get somebody to do it for us? Because I know you are a business economist. And I said, what's in it? What are you offering? Because if I'm going to look for somebody, I need to tell them, what's on the table. Yes. He said, no, we will pay $1,000 a day for the 4 days, and we also fly that person business class and put them in 5-star hotel and give them an extra day where we give them a car to take them around the whole of Beijing. So I said to him, when we work in Manchester, we are paid $1,000 a day. I don't think anybody will fly 12 hours to Beijing to accept $1,000 a day. So we've got to do something about it. I said, okay, I will double it. So you are now talking. Let's carry on. So he said, we will pay $2,000 for the day and 5-star hotels, business class, and so on. I said, that sounds good. I'll do it. So can you? Say, yes, I'll do it. What's the problem? He said, Vicky, I know you to be business economist. I said, I'm a university professor. That's what matters. I'll do it. He said, oh, that's fine. If you can do it, I've met you. So if you can do it, that's fine. So as soon as I put the phone down, I went to the library and took the leadership books, 4 of them, and started looking at them, the content. What is leadership? Why is it important? What are the leadership skills that people need? What are the sort of things they need to learn and unlearn? What are the sort of context issues they need to? Because leadership happens in context. So what you do in Ghana to succeed, you cannot do maybe the same thing in Kenya to succeed. So I started reading. And the course was 1st of June, and I had March. So I started reading leadership stuff like crazy. And 1 month later, they called me and said, we want some idea of what is going to be delivered. And I sent them a proposal and the content and so on, which I had actually got from books. And they said, this is fine. So I contacted the publishers of the books I was reading, and they brought me transparencies, PowerPoint transparencies. And I studied the subject very, very well, transparencies, case studies, and so on. And I flew into Beijing and got there Thursday evening. No, I got there Wednesday, so they gave me a whole day to rest because the time difference is 8 hours, so you needed to rest if you got there. So Friday morning, 8 o'clock, breakfast, 9, start off. And I delivered this session 7 hours a day non-stop, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So at the end of the course, they had to do evaluation. And the average was 90%, 9 out of 10. Wow. And that was the first time I taught leadership to executives, and 9 out of 10. So I realized that this is something I can really do because I enjoyed it.
And the money was good.
And the money was good. $8,000, in my pocket when I got onto the flight to come back. And when I got to Manchester, I was laughing all the way to the bank, wow, which was good. So that's how it started.
So, Prof, fast forward from there.
Yeah.
I mean, for comfort and anytime we call you, so you are in Japan, and then you are in this country. How many countries have you done?
For training of executives and MBAs, I've done 26 countries on 4 continents. It's only Australia I haven't covered.
We should arrange for that. Now that you're using a book, you should go to Australia.
That's right. I should go to Australia, then I'll cover all 5 continents.
So you've done 26 countries in 4 continents, teaching leadership in management in various universities. I am sure that for many of the places you've gone, even if I take Springboard and the Festival of Ideas and all our interventions you've been at, the first question people ask is, where is your book?
That's right.
At Gimpa, where is your book?
That's right.
Why did it take you so long to write this?
I think the problem was I love traveling and teaching more than sitting down and writing. I tend to be a very active person, and to really sit behind a desk talking to nobody and writing was a big problem for me. So research was part of my problem in academia. And especially in Ghana, when I started doing leadership courses for the state-owned enterprises and, of course, private sector companies like DataBank also, I designed a 2-day executive leadership for top people, CEOs and so on. And I've done it for Bank of Africa, I've done it for Stanchart and so on, and New Times Corporation, all of them. And every time I've done a 2-day executive course, Bank of Ghana, and I've finished, people walk up to me and say, wow, we've had a nice day. Can you refer us to some of the books you've written so we can have, some sort of recap? And I said, no, I haven't written anything on leadership yet. I said, but what we've covered today, or the 2 days, if it was recorded and typed, that alone would be a book. So what are you waiting for? And this has always been the case. I'll do it. The last 5 years, I'll do it. But I'm always flying around. I was doing usually 12 to 15 international trips around the world. Yes. I will go to St. Lucia, for example, do a strategic positioning program for the Caribbean Association of Indigenous Banks. I will do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, leave St. Lucia Wednesday night, arrive Thursday morning in Manchester, and next Sunday I'm on my way to Kenya to do something for the World Bank. So that was my life, and flying around. So India, for example, I was UK government's consultant for the Indian subcontinent. So I did a lot of work in India and Bangladesh. And India, I've been there 50 times. We actually trained Indian railways managers to become competent enough to actually turn this company around. Indian Railways is the biggest railway network in the world, employing about 1.7 million. And it was always loss-making, state-owned company. And at the end of the year, government writes a check. But they wanted us to actually give them strategic management competency. And I was director of the program for 10 years. And at the end of the program, Indian Railway actually started making profits.
Wow.
That was amazing, So it was running around, and I enjoyed the travel rather than sitting down and writing. Then came COVID. COVID has devastated the world, we all know, but COVID has had some positive sides also. So I actually came here on, I think, early February to do some consulting work for the Ministry of Finance with Dr. Samensa. And I returned to Manchester in the morning of 12th of March. Then about 10 days later, on the 23rd of March, lockdown by the British government. COVID, 2020. Nobody is going anywhere. Nobody is coming in. So in a sense, the government actually clipped my wings, as if to say, Pikay, you're going nowhere. That's right. And perhaps it was good for my wife, but she didn't care so much about it. As long as I was behaving well, that was fine. So anyway, since I wasn't going anywhere and I couldn't go anywhere, that was the time to sit down and write. So middle of 2020, I started writing. And because I taught this subject over the years, and I've spoken on conferences, and I delivered in Los Angeles and Montreal and so on, I had the stuff, I had the material. So all I needed to do was just sit down, take the slides, and just write. So within a year, it was all done, 350 pages. I'd written the case studies. Every chapter has got a case study at the end of it with questions. And then I needed to look for a publisher. And I met Mr. Ajari, wonderful guy, and he came to see in Manchester. We agreed that we would do it. So eventually, he got a proofreader, and they went through it, and eventually we were able to do this. That's the story of this book.
The story alone is enough. It's just a beautiful one. And Prof, I must congratulate you on behalf of Comfort and I and Team Springboard for this. I mean, I was privileged to launch it on the 31st of August alongside many of your friends who had gathered, and I'm looking at this book, Leadership Theory, Practice and Cases. I have my own perspectives on it, and I can tell you why I love it so much. But how does it make you feel now that it's finally done?
I feel very good about it. I said eventually, all this promise I will do it and I will do it that my friends have been bombarding me with, eventually is done. And I feel very satisfied, and I thank God that I've been able to produce this. Because somebody said to me, look, all this thing that you've taught people and all the experience you've gained running around the world, Kuala Lumpur here, Singapore there, and so on, and what you've gathered, and the cases that you have written, if you don't put all together in a book and the Lord calls you, it will be difficult for people to actually benefit from your experience and knowledge. But if you put it in the book, then even when you're gone, people will have opportunity to read from your experience and from your teaching and so forth and so on. So that is the satisfaction I have, that this becomes a legacy for others.
And I'm not surprised that that conversation came up, because when all is said and done, your thoughts must outlive you, and this is a great opportunity. Let's go down to the subject of the book, which is why we are here. Leadership, very often a subject that is simple to mention, and maybe sometimes even simple to define, but oftentimes very difficult to practice in terms of the results and impact. What would make somebody be a leader? Let's start from there.
Okay. The word leader and leadership, if you look at leadership also, it's about leading people. When we talk about management, it's about getting things done. But leadership is about people. You lead people. You manage structures, but you lead people. And the question is, if you lead in people, where are you leading them to? So a leader is somebody who is able to influence people, and it's not about forcing them, it's not about coercion. You influence them, you excite them with a new story, with a good story, so that they buy in, and you lead them to actually achieve some good common objective. So the basic definition generally is leadership is a process. It is not a person, it's a process, it's an activity by which an individual, referred to as the leader, is able to influence a group of people, referred to as followers or subordinates, in order to work together and achieve some good common objectives. Therefore, that title is only applicable to somebody who is able to do it. It's not applicable to somebody who calls himself leader but has not been able to lead anybody to do anything. That is why position of authority is not leadership, because you can be in a position of authority and yet not able to lead people to achieve anything. It's the result that determines whether you are a leader or not, not the fear that you call yourself a leader or in a position of authority.
Would you say that there are many people who hold the title as leaders and are actually not leaders or not doing anything?
Many. There are many. They put into position of authority, and you think by being there, they were able to call on their leadership competency to lead, to achieve something. But a lot of them only sit in that position for themselves and enjoy the perks, but are not able to lead to achieve anything. In the United Kingdom, the icon of UK retailing used to be Marks and Spencer. That was the icon of UK retailing. And Mrs. Thatcher, we used to shop there. Mrs. Thatcher, somebody I refer to as she who must be obeyed. And Albert, I'm sure you want to know why I call her she who must be obeyed. Will you?
Tell me.
Yes. Mrs. Thatcher took her ministers for lunch at the Dorchester. The Dorchester is a favorite hotel in Park Lane. And settled there, all of them settled down. And then the waitress came and bowed to, Prime Minister, what are you going to have? And she said, I'm going to have tomato soup to start, and then I'll have the beef, and I'll have some apple pie and coffee and tea to finish. And the waitress bowed. Thank you, Prime Minister. I will now find out from your ministers what they will have. And said, oh, they will have the same. They will have the same. And that was the end of the story. So since then I called her, she who must be obeyed. She used to shop there.
By the way, before you even go to Margaret Thatcher's story that I'm going to tell, whenever I go to the UK and I go to Canary Wharf, where the banks have their head office, and I see the water there, my mind goes back to the Docklands when it used to be like the Collie in Ocran, and how one woman, the person you call she who must be obeyed, transformed what was like the Collie to become the primest property in London.
That's right.
All the banks' headquarters lined up by the water.
That's unbelievable.
The same water that was like a trash dumping place is now the hottest property with skyscrapers lined
everywhere.
up with water.
Yes, that's what leadership can do, Albert.
Right, Prof. So that is where you are coming in.
That's right.
That looking at Margaret Thatcher, there are several people who have the title of being leaders, but there's nothing to show for it.
That's right. That's right.
What is the danger when people like that hold positions?
It's a big problem, because when the person at the top is no leader or a lousy one, then nothing gets done. Because the whole idea of being at the top, Albert, is to gather people, enthuse them, excite them, and get them to deliver whatever common goal that needs to be delivered. So if that person is lousy, then nothing happens. Even if somebody below him goes to me and says, Chief, I think we should do this way because it will be better. Are you going to teach me my job? Don't you know I'm the boss here? That kind of feeling. When people are incompetent, they're actually afraid of people coming to tell them what to do or coming to criticize them. So nothing gets done. Everything stops. Even the competent ones at the bottom are stifled because they are not allowed to do what they must do. So when we come, Mrs. Thatcher, apart from what you said about Docklands, once she became Prime Minister, she inherited a big government-owned industrial company that knew nothing but loss-making, the British Steel Corporation. Under her leadership, this basket case was turned around to become the most profitable steel company in the world. That is what leadership is about. But whilst Mrs. Thatcher was there, we had this Marks and Spencer I was talking about. And in 1996, we had the misfortune of appointing one Richard Greenbury as the CEO. And Marks and Spencer has never been the same again because he wasn't up to the mark of a leader leading an icon of UK business. He blew it completely. And Marks and Spencer has never been the same again. So you can have, people in positions of authority who are not up to speed, up to the task. And it's very, very dangerous. For example, in 1984, IBM was the darling of Wall Street. IBM was the darling of Wall Street. Yet, within 6 years, IBM was down. Because in 1994, IBM had a market capitalization of 100 billion. Today it will be what? Maybe a trillion or something. And IBM margins was 10%. Now, in manufacturing, it is very difficult to get margins double digit. But IBM was doing it in 1984. 6 years later, in 1990, IBM market capitalization had halved, margins had halved. And 2 more years later, 1992, IBM lost $3 billion for the first time in its 80-year history. And this was under the chairmanship and CEO of John Akers. He was not good.
So you've given 2 examples, that of Marks and Spencer and that of IBM. These
That's
are
right.
well-documented cases of how a wrong person,
Yes.
a wrong leader, heading a business, heading an organization, can totally run it down
Yes.
or move it downhill, just to confirm the point that it's not just about holding a title.
That's right. Not about position.
A position, sorry,
Yes.
a position of title.
Yeah.
But it's more about inspiring people, exciting them about a mission.
That's right. The
and
ability.
driving them.
That's right.
to
The
get
ability
things
to determine where we go. What is it that we need to do? What is the right thing to do? All right? Even in governments like India, we've got 1 billion people, poor and so on. What do we do for our people? And I talked about Dubai some time ago. What do we do? Dubai is a desert, no rivers, nothing. We can't grow anything. It rains twice a year. What is it that we do to sustain this city for generations yet above? That's what a leader actually does. He asks questions. What is the right thing to do? And then once he's determined the right thing, then he has to determine, how do I do it right? In other words, you have right thing and thing right. You determine the right thing and then you also do it right. You actually execute it right. Because a lot of the time, especially governments can determine the right thing to do, the policy. But in the implementation, they blow it. And for you to be a leader, you must be able to determine the right thing and also determine the strategy that you need to put in place to actually achieve whatever goal, right, thing that you've set. And a lot of people in government and in companies and so on haven't got that. And the danger is appointing people who are nice guys, who may have been part of the party, who may be related to the president's wife, who may be the nice guy in the village, but who haven't got what it takes to actually influence people, get them to work, and achieve any goal. That is the danger. Because if you put somebody like that, even if he means well, if he doesn't know, he doesn't know. And the problem is that there are many people out there who don't know. And either they don't know that they don't know, or they pretend that they know. And that is the problem.
So whether you don't know that you don't know, or you know that you don't know,
yes.
in both cases, it will affect us.
It will affect us badly. And the problem, Albert, is that when you don't know, you don't even know what you don't know.
Wow. Say it again.
When you don't know, you don't even know what you don't know.
This is Springboard, your virtual university. When you don't know, you don't even know that you don't know.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll find out what you know and what you don't know, and then delve into the various case studies that Prof has so eloquently articulated in his book, and then probably touch on the Dubai story. He's mentioned Dubai. Let's find out what they did differently, and then juxtapose that against Africa and ask, what are we getting wrong and what must we do going forward? If you just tuned in or logged on and you are excited, the voice you just heard is the voice of Professor Pikay Richardson. I don't even want to say Manchester Business School because Prof is known across the world in several business schools who own him as their own. But let's say that he's resident at the Manchester Business School for several years. And he's also resident here at Springboard, your virtual university, as one of our international alumni. Whenever he comes here, he calls before he gets here, and then we grab him to come here and tell us the latest in town. He's called PK, and he's written a book called Leadership, the Theory, the Practice, and the Cases. When we come back, let's find out which one is more critical. Is it the theory, is it the practice, or is it the cases? Please don't go away.
There once was a man who had it all. He had skill, he had charisma. He was loved by all, but above all, he knew the importance of helping others, lifting others up. He knew the importance of giving other people an advantage so that they too would use that advantage to help others. All you need is that advantage that sets you apart from the rest. And when you discover that advantage, life's challenges don't seem so daunting anymore. That's where we come in. Enterprise, your advantage.
UMB was established in 1972 as the premier bank for the corporate and private sector in Ghana. From our very beginning, as the only Ghanaian bank serving all categories of businesses, we set a standard for excellence and innovation. Over the past 45 years, we've built a financially healthy and strong bank, demonstrated our commitment to our customers and to growing businesses, and exhibited originality and innovation at every turn. At UMB, our focus is built around people, service, products and technology. These are the key to our present success and our future triumphs. At UMB, we are poised to make a difference not only with our customers, but also in the banking industry. We invite you to share in our future. Our future starts now with you.
Central University, we are not just giving theoretical knowledge, but also real-life practical immersion. Our projects and research are targeted at solving real-life problems within our built and the natural environment. My name is Che Joseph Bafo, an architecture student. The faculty and facilities available to us make us industry ready. The project I'm working on recently won an award when my colleagues and I visited the Netherlands. Central University makes you industry ready.
Welcome back to Springboard, your virtual university, and to this very exciting discussion about leadership. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation and proudly sponsored by MTN Pulse, the Enterprise Group, UMB Bank, Central University, with media partnership from the Multimedia Group and the Graphic Business. Today we are doing what we have called a two-part leadership conversation with one of our favorite people, the man they call Pikay, Professor Pikay Richardson, based in Manchester but known across the world for his work. He has just released a book called Leadership, Theory, Practice, and Cases, and we are so far breaking down his leadership journey, lessons learned along the way, some very painful lessons, and we closed out before the break on a simple proposition. If you don't know that you don't know, or let me say it again, if you don't know, you often don't know that you don't know.
Yeah.
That is very dangerous.
Yes.
Somebody who holds a position and they don't even know that
they don't know, and they don't know that they don't even know. So they can pretend they know, and what they do is blow it.
During the break, I was just thinking about the cost to an organization, to a nation, and to a whole generation of somebody who holds a position for a long time and is clueless. Prof, you mentioned the Dubai story along the line, and in this second part, we'll focus on cases just to bring it home, and that's something you've done very beautifully in your book.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Dubai story. What about the Dubai story caught your attention?
Right. There's a paper that was written some time ago, Dubai Built and the World Came. Now, Dubai is a desert. No rivers, rains twice a year, no natural resources. People think that Dubai has got oil. Dubai hasn't got oil. The component of Dubai's GDP accounted for by oil is only 3%. Abu Dhabi has got oil and not Dubai. And they don't share it because the United Arab Emirates is actually a cluster of 7 villages or towns, whatever you want to call them, dotted on this desert. And each was led by a feudal king, its own village, like chief of a place. It was only in 1973-74 that these 7, which is Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, Al Ain, and so on, decided to form a federation. And it's a loose federation. So when Abu Dhabi has got oil, the oil is not for all 7. It's only for Abu Dhabi. So Dubai has got virtually nothing. What Dubai has got is just geography. It tends to be in the middle of the world, and it's got a coast. So the leaders of Dubai, looking at this city and their citizens and Emiratis, what are we going to do? What is it that we should do to sustain and maintain this city for generations yet unborn? And that's the sort of questions leaders ask. What is it that we need to do? What is the right thing to do? And they realize that since we don't have any factories, we don't have manufacturing, we don't have water and so on, maybe what we need to do is to make Dubai, a service city. If we can make Dubai a service city and get people to come here and spend their money, we will sustain our city. But who wants to go to Dubai? Because when we were ready for independence in Ghana, 1997, when Freedom and Justice Building, all the ministries, 57, and all these ministry buildings had been done, Dubai was a fishing village. When we were ready for independence, with Freedom and Justice and all, last Square, Dubai was a fishing village. So the leaders are saying, what are we going to do to also live and leave something for generations yet to come? If we want to make it a service city, which is all that we can do, who is going to come here? The traditional airlines, British Airways and Lufthansa and so on, when they go into the Far East and Australia, they fly over Europe, refuel in Singapore, and they go to Australia. No, who's going to come to Dubai? So in order to get people here to enjoy the service we are going to provide, hotels and duty-free and so forth and so on, since the airlines, traditional ones, will not come here, we need to build our own airline and make Dubai the hub so that we can bring them through here to spend their money. We can have an economy. Because if you stand in Dubai, 8 hours on your left is half the population of the world. 8 hours on your right is half the population of the world. So they happen to be in the center of the world. So if we can make Dubai airport top class, 5 hotels, and get people to come here to spend their money, we can have a service economy. But the traditional airlines will not come here, which means we have to build our own airline, make here the hub. So from US to Dubai to Australia, from Australia through Dubai to London and so forth and so on. So they decided to build an airline, and the name of the airline will be Emirates. But you see, as I said some time ago, and I'll always say, in order to create wealth, Albert, you need 3 factors. 1, knowledge, skill, or competence. Put it together as know-how. If you want to design a car, you need to know how to design and build a car. If you don't know, it doesn't matter you want to build a car. You can't build it because you don't have the knowledge, the skill to do it. So knowledge, know-how, competence, skill, put it together is the first factor. The second factor is the desire, the keenness, the dedication, the honesty to actually do what you say you want to do. To do what you want to use the skill to do. Because a lot of the time we make policies, isn't it? We want to do this. We want to be Operation Feed Yourself. We want to be able to feed Ghana. Lip service, we talk on TV, yes, nothing happens. The keenness, the desire, the dedication to actually drive that agenda that you want to achieve using the competence or know-how that you have is called leadership. So without that, you may actually have knowledge, but nothing will come out of it. You need the drive, you need the keenness to determine what is it that I must use, the knowledge or the skill, the know-how that I have to do. And it's not like you have to drive it, get people on board, enthuse them, motivate them, excite them to actually work to actually achieve it.
Right.
It's called leadership.
And the third is?
And the third factor is resource, which is basically money. The interesting thing, Albert, is this. If you've got the first 2, you can always get a third one. So when somebody says, we don't have money, if you've got the first 2,
which is the
knowledge, the know-how or and the leadership, you can have the third one. The third one is not a problem. There are billions of dollars around the world looking for investment. And that's why we have banks. Banks are there. The bank manager knows that if he doesn't lend money, he goes out of business. Because what a bank do, a bank is simply a financial intermediary. You know, Albert, when you make more money, you put it in the bank because you want it to be kept for you safely. And then if I need money to buy a car or to set up a business, I go to the bank to take the money you put in the first place. The bank manager himself hasn't got money. It's other people's money.
So let me take you back to the Dubai story, because
Right.
you've shifted to give us the 3 factors of wealth creation, which is the know-how, the keenness, and the resources. Let's apply this to the Dubai case.
Right. So Dubai has realized that they can only survive as a service economy.
Right.
And the service economy, they need an airline to bring people through there.
Okay.
Right.
So they had the knowledge.
They need the knowledge.
They need knowledge, okay.
To set up an airline and run it. They need leadership to actually get it done. And they need the money. Right. So the skill, the knowledge, the know-how, they don't have. So what do? They buy it. They contact the British Airways director, Maurice Flanagan, and bring him to a meeting in Dubai in March 1985. So, look, guys, we want to set up this. We need the knowledge, the number 1. But we don't have it. So we want you to bring it in and work with us to do it. So they convinced him, said, okay, he'll be part of it. He said, we will provide the leadership, the land, the dedication, the keenness, the support, the political will, everything that you need to get this airline off the ground. We will provide it and back you to the health. That is the leadership.
Right.
Honesty, fairness, integrity. We will make sure, that when we borrow money to give to you or whatever, not a penny disappears anywhere. We will make sure things are done as by the book. That is leadership. Honesty, integrity, fairness, drive. We will provide that. Now, the third one is money. So Flanagan says, how much money, capital, have you got? Say, we've got only $10 million. Say, $10 million? Are you guys serious? A 747 or Boeing 777 that will fly from here to London or fly from here to Australia costs about $200 million. And you want one. And you want us to set up an airline with 10 million. Are you guys serious? I say, well, that's all we have. So what my wife said to me some time ago, Pikay, Dubai has got money. I said, Dubai hasn't got any money. It's leadership that they have, not money. Because they don't even have oil. Said, that's all we have. So the determination by Flanagan and the leaders of Dubai is, since we don't have enough money to buy the place, what do we do? Because we want to set up the airline at all costs. So what they decided. You see, when leaders sit down to talk about what is it that we do? First, can we identify the problem? Yes. What do we do about the problem? They've identified that they need a lot of money. They haven't got it. So what do we do? All right, you take that 10 million and use it to lease place. So they leased 2 aircraft from Pakistan International Airlines. And Albert, the rest, as they say, is history.
Hey. You are a very good storyteller, I must say. Is it part of your craft?
I don't know. Maybe that's what gift I've got. God has given me. But
because I get the picture very clearly, and once I get it, our listeners and viewers also get it. So I'm sitting down here. I mean, since we came back from the break, you are telling me that Dubai sat down and did an analysis of what they have and who they want to be. Fishing village, desert. How do we establish a transgenerational legacy? We look around, all we have is geography. From where we are, 8 hours you can reach any part of the world. Then they say geography is an asset. So we want to do a service economy driven by an airline. And you say to create wealth in any way, 3 things. Your knowledge or know-how, your keenness, which is leadership, and the resources. And you say if you have the first 2, the third one will come. Yes. And you say Dubai did an analysis and said, yes, knowledge, we don't have it. They went to buy it from British Airways.
Because we need it.
They said the keenness, we have the values, commitment, honesty, and everything. We also have a land which we can bring as a sign of our commitment, but we don't have the money. We have only $10 million. We need 200 to buy a 747.
Just one.
They leased 2 aircrafts from Pakistan Airlines, and the rest they say
history.
It's history.
Yes.
One more time.
Yes.
So let's push on from there. If it is so simple, why is Africa not replicating this very simple model of analyze your assets versus your intentions, transgenerational outlook, and then start from where you are and mobilize knowledge, leadership or keenness, and resources to create something that evidently will become a big legacy for generations to come? Why are we not seeing that in Africa?
That is the problem. Because if we just say a few more words about the Emirates story, once they've started this small thing with 10 million, and they worked it out well, all right? They worked hard with that 10 million and operated honestly and fairly and with hard work. Profits started coming. So once investors realize that these guys are serious, they have only 10 million, look what they built. So if we lend them another 10 million, they will do great things. So money came chasing them. And Emirates now has the biggest fleet of A380s in the world. Because if Emirates say we want 10 billion to buy planes, all the banks will be running towards it. Simply because they will do the job, they will use the money honestly, and they will be able to make the returns to pay back. So banks are not afraid to lend to them. Now you come to Africa.
Right.
You come to Africa. Let's say we sell some gold and make 10 million. Let me use a simple figure, 10 million for the year. The question is, where do we put the 10 million? Where is the leadership that says this 10 million, this is what we are going to do? We have sat down, we've actually thought through it. We have realized that this is an area where if you put money, there will be returns. So we go in there and we'll be honest with it, we'll be dedicated with it, and every penny of the 10 million will go into it. If we do that, the results will be clear. Because as the Bible puts it, if you plant a good tree, you harvest good fruit. If you plant a bad tree, you harvest bad fruit. It's a loose gospel. So if you commit this to it and hard work, you will get a result. But what happens a lot of the time, before they even talk about putting the money into that area, half of it has been shared by people, looted. And then when you give contracts to people, they loot half the money, so whatever they do after 2 years is collapse. Emirates didn't work like that. Every penny they earned, profit, went back in. After payment of salaries and everything, if they needed to borrow money and they went to the bank and borrowed, the banks knew that they will put every penny to work. You know, but in Africa, you know, we borrow $500 million, there's some 10% going to party coffers or whatever. You see, you can't get right results if you do things wrong. You see, the computer people have got a very nice way of putting it. Garbage in, garbage out. What you put in determines. So if we're going to channel the resource in and put the knowledge in and put the leadership in, the results will be great. And yet we are not doing that a lot of the time.
Let's push on to some of the beautiful case studies. And I must say that there are two things that are on my mind right now. I definitely saw a number of the international case studies. But what stood out for me in your book was the attempt to have African and Ghanaian case studies. How important is it to use local case studies to teach a subject?
Right. I think it's quite straightforward, Albert. All the major textbooks of the world used to teach MBAs and leaders around the world. All the examples of cases are white people. Excellent people who have done very well, you know, in their areas of operation, like Sir Lindsay Owens Jones. This is a guy who was appointed the first non-French CEO of L'Oreal, the beauty products company. All right? He's done very well, and he's left a legacy. In fact, under his stewardship, L'Oreal achieved double-digit profit growth non-stop for 21 years. Non-stop. You know, so we've got wonderful stories to tell about people. But Albert, there are stars also in Africa. There are stars in Ghana. So having used some, you know, foreign cases, I also looked at my environment, and there are people doing very well. For example, Mansanete, running Standard Chartered Bank, the first lady to do so, Abno Seopoku, and look at Dr. Kwabreje. All right, starting from a garage in Nungua, this gentleman has actually built a Ghanaian industrial juggernaut, starting with Casapreco. Now it's a pinnacle group of 9 companies. And he's trained his children to actually take over, which is one of the problems, Albert, we have always had in Ghana. Succession planning is never done. So when the patriarchs actually build companies, you know, and the companies become successful, once they die, the children fight over the company, everything actually disappears. When I was in university in the 1970s, we had Poku Transport Service, Apia Minka, this and that. They all disappeared. The Kwame Aye and Sons, Sodru, Greenland, they've all disappeared. Because succession planning is never done. They don't even understand it, let alone do it. And a lot of them, when you advise them, they won't take it. They are the money men. You are academia, you are a book person, they don't want to know. But Dr. Kwamnaje has actually successfully trained his children to take over the companies. And he's taking, you know, the group chairmanship, sitting at the back, looking at them and providing advice as and when necessary. So there are wonderful stories in Ghana. And I decided I would use 5 of them. Sam Jonah, you know, everything he touches becomes gold. So I decided that Sam is somebody we need to celebrate. And then I also got a case on the president of African Development Bank, Akiwumi Adesina. He's done fantastic. His first time, the change he brought to African Development Bank is never been matched by anybody else. So such a person should be celebrated. So you see. So there are stars, and I thought we should highlight them. And especially when the book goes international, then other people in Manchester, in US, in Singapore, and so on, will also have case studies which are on Ghanaians.
So you're looking at inspiring Ghanaians and Africans, and then also telling our story to the rest of the world.
To the rest of the world.
Excellent. Let's come on to the, before I even settle on where we can get your book, let's settle on one thing also that caught my attention in your book, the use of biblical
Nehemiah.
case studies.
Yeah.
And I like the Nehemiah one.
Nehemiah.
I've been seeing Nehemiah next to Sam Jonah. It was very nice to read that chapter.
Yeah.
But tell me about your lessons from Nehemiah.
Yeah. Nehemiah is a Jewish gentleman who led the building of the wall around Jerusalem. You know, the Jews were so stubborn. Every time they broke God's law and they turned away to serve foreign gods, they had punishment. And then they would go and prostrate and cry and so on, and God will forgive them and raise them up again. Then when things are very, very good, they go back to the wrong things. So anyway, after a lot of warning by prophets, especially Isaiah and the second prophet who was big in this area, God warned them and warned them and warned them, and they will not turn from their bad ways. So they prophesied that they will be taken into captivity for 70 years. And that's where Daniel was. So they were taken into captivity. And eventually, God had also promised that he'll bring them back. So they were given freedom to go back. And they built a temple. You know, there were 3 leaders. And Nehemiah was the last one who led the building of the wall around Jerusalem to protect the city. Because he went there, the walls were in ruins, and he cried, said, no, this should be built, you know, to protect the city. And the way he led the Jewish people to actually build the wall is a classic case of how to lead a group of people to actually do something that is right and necessary.
Show me 2 things that caught your attention about Nehemiah. What caught your attention? What about the building of the wall? What was the approach that caught your attention?
The desire to actually get some good common goal achieved. Because he wasn't getting people to do something to benefit himself. He was getting people together to do something which he had identified as a leader that it was necessary. A leader's business is to determine where do we go from here.
So
what is it that is necessary to do?
The common goal.
Common goal.
Second.
The second one is to actually, how do we actually do the common goal? Because you can actually identify the goal and either not do anything about it or blow it in the implementation stage. So apart from identifying the goal, you also have to have the skill to actually get it done. And that is strategy. How do you put people in charge of different parts of the job? How do you excite them? How do you motivate them? For example, people think that if somebody is skilled, then automatically the person will do something or do some work. No. Skilling somebody, Albert, is only the necessary condition. It is not sufficient. The sufficient condition to get anybody, any human being with feelings to do something is motivation. And motivation is simply forces, external or internal, that enthuse the person, that engender enthusiasm and desire in that person to do the job. So he was able to enthuse the Jews that this is important, it will protect the city, it's honoring to the Lord, and he was able to get buy-in and was able to allocate duties. And he himself went around supervising it. You see, a lot of the time, some of our people, they give instructions and then they go and play golf. You know, and what they fail to realize is that by and large, Albert, people do what you inspect and not what you expect. They are very different. So they do what you expect. If they know that, you know, this job Albert has given to me, I'm sure within the next 24 hours he'll come and check if I'm doing it. He will do it. But if Albert has given me this job, I can't be bothered. He's just going to play golf. I've never seen him for 2 years. He will not be doing. So he was going around supervising, making sure people were doing things.
So 4 things you mentioned about Nehemiah. 1 is a common goal, which was build the wall.
Build the wall around Jerusalem.
Number 2 was strategy, that is skilling people and arranging them on the tasks. The third one was motivating them, inspiring them that this is good for the country, it will help us honor the Lord.
Good for our Jewish, yes.
And then the final one was supervision. You see, if you don't inspect and you just expect, you won't get the results.
Yes.
Prof, we will definitely be back next week on this subject, and next week we'll be looking at change management and why it is critical at a time like this. But let's end this part 1 of the conversation by looking into your leadership crystal ball and saying that this is where I think the world will go, and therefore this is what I think leaders should do. Let's take 1 minute to do that before we close.
Right. Unfortunately, the prognosis is not very good. We've got the issue of Ukraine worldwide. And I would have thought that people will sit down, leaders will sit down and say, Russia, what's the problem? How can you resolve this? Let's sit down. Rather than, Russia, you've taken this step. So we are going to arm, Ukraine to fight you. Because what is going to happen is that if Ukraine gets sophisticated weapons and hits Russia, where it hurts, Russia is the biggest nuclear power in the world. Russia is the only country in the world that can sink the United States. As for Britain, we don't even talk about it, because when Britain, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson said they were going to, he used certain words, they were going to get Russia down or something. You know what the Foreign Minister said? Bring it on. That's what he said. 3 words, bring it on. Because just one atomic bomb will sink United Kingdom. It's all. It's tiny. And the Prime Minister of Britain didn't say anything else. When he said, bring it on, that was the end of the story. So it's not that, rather than say, look, this thing is affecting the world. Every country is suffering from inflation. Oil prices have gone up. It's affecting food. Everything is affected by this. Why can't we go to UN and sit down? Russia, what's your problem? Can we resolve it? What we are rather doing is arming one side. Now, if Ukraine gets sophisticated weapons and hit Russia where it hurts, I bet Russia will respond big time. And we cannot imagine what may happen. So the prognosis is not very good for the world. And I'm hoping that people will move away from, I have authority, I have power, rather than I want to be a leader. And a leader is one who leads to achieve good common goals rather than fight and destruction.
This is Springboard, your virtual university. I've made one promise and I'll keep it. And next week, Prof is back. This time, talking about change management and why you need it in your home, in your family, your personal life, your church, your business, your organization, your nation, and the world at large. And if you are being encumbered by several changes that are bordering on a crisis, how to respond to changes you did not anticipate, what you must do and what you must not do. If you ever have thought you should listen to the virtual university, next week is the day. In the meantime, I've been learning from my guest, and when I come back, I'll ask you where you can get the book. I've been learning from my guest, Prof. Pikay Richardson, who has just written a book on leadership theory, practice, and cases. A few lessons. Number one was about his genesis of leadership, how he got into leadership. The second one was about opportunity in Shanghai, how he saw an opportunity and grabbed it, and the world has never been the same again. The third was about why he wrote this book and the fact that several people were making a demand on his knowledge in written form. The fourth was about legacy. A friend said to him, if you don't do this and Lord calls you home, there will be nothing to show for your years of hard work. The fifth is about what makes a person a leader. The common objective, inspiring people and getting them to do it. The sixth, quite scary, is about titles without action and the danger of having people who hold titles and do nothing. And he mentioned Margaret Thatcher, the one who gets things, who must be obeyed, and how an example of how one choice she made everyone make the same choice inadvertently. The seventh is about leadership failure, the story of Marks and Spencer and IBM, how one person in the wrong position can be very expensive for a business, if I may say so, for a nation. The eighth was about effective leadership, asking the right things to do and doing them right, and that seminal quote about if you don't know that you don't know, if you don't know, you don't know that you don't know. I keep trying to get it right. If you don't know,
yes. You don't even know what you don't know.
That you don't know. It's too scary. and that one was very seminal for me. The ninth was the Dubai story, a fishing village in a desert with no natural resources, and how they assess geography as their only asset and use the airline everywhere as a pivot to build a service economy. The 10th was the 3 factors of world creation: your knowledge, your leadership, and your resources. And it says if you have the first two, the third one will definitely
That's why
come.
we have banks, yes.
The 11th is applying the 3 factors on how Dubai is a case study of buying the knowledge in terms of an executive, showing commitment with the values and the available resources, and then using the little that they had to attract the rest because of their honesty and total commitment to that one common objective. The 12th is about the sad case of Africa and how sometimes we do not show that same commitment to generational building of our continent and our countries. The 13th was local success stories or case studies and how they help to showcase our stories for inspiring young Ghanaians and young Africans, right. And then even more importantly, for selling our stories to the world. Right. And you see, that's why you did a number of stories. You mentioned Kasapreko as one of the seminal examples. The 14th was Nehemiah as a case study. And you see 4 things stand out. The common cause, build a wall. The strategy, gather people and arrange them. Motivating them about something that will honor the Lord and also help build their nation. And finally, supervising them in person, not going to play golf, to get the results. The final one, the 15th point, is that going forward with Russia, Ukraine continuing to be a threat to the world, and inflation, food prices, oil prices, fertilizer, and everything else spiraling in the way that they are doing. If leadership is not brought to bear and we continue along the lines that we are doing currently, it will not be good for the world. And at this point, it calls for great leadership. Prof, we can't have enough of you talking about leadership, but let's end on this book that you have written so beautifully, Leadership Theory, Practice and Cases. Help us to know where we can find this book because it's important that we get it in our libraries and enjoy it.
That's right. I think it's good that we put this out for people to know. The book is available from the publishers, Smartline.
Let me say hello to Mr. and Mrs. Ajari Elliott and his wife for doing this, doing what we've all been asking for and helping you to put it together. So where can
Mr. Ajari has been fantastic. Smartline, telephone number 024-250-1560. Smartline. Or you can get it from Kingdom Bookshops around, Cyrus Bookshop in Legon, Methodist Book Depot, and Book Look shops around.
Yeah, Book Look is owned by a good friend of ours called Nana Damwa. So those are the places where you can get the book. And the phone number for Smartline, 024-250-1560 is the number. Call Smartline if you have inquiries or you want to buy it for your whole library, your whole business school. That one, call the publisher direct, and Prof can get the resources and you can be smiling all the way to the bank, Prof.
That's right. I like that.
Thank you for coming and for being with us. Let's do this again next week. Let's talk about change management.
That's right. Sure. We will talk about it. Another important subject.
On Tuesday, get the transcript of this conversation in print in the graphic business on page 18 and online at springboard.com.gh, graphic online, and MyJoy online and on other sites. And next week, buckle down, join us as we talk about change leadership and how it can transform your situation. Change management and how it can transform your situation. My name is Albert Ocran, thanking you on behalf of Team Springboard and our partners, MTN Pulse, the Enterprise Group, UMB Bank, Central University, and our media partners, the Multimedia Group, and the graphic business. Let's come again next week for another big leadership conversation with Prof. Pikay Richardson. Till then, God bless you, and God bless you.